Warnings for their theatrics violating the NBA's anti-flopping rule in the Lakers' win over the Grizzlies on Friday. Now, James and Kuzma, just the 6th and 7th players to be given warnings and be reprimanded by the league this season. And of course, we all know this is not the first time we have heard LeBron James and flopping used in the same sentence. So, Max, I ask you, is it fair to label LeBron as a flopper?
And I ask you, is this a trick question? Of course LeBron's a flopper. Of course he's a flopper. Yes, he is. And he was not the first star who tries to get calls. And it's not on the offense, like it's on the defensive end too, of course. Like Dennis Rodman or Draymond Green, guys who put a lot of effort into the defensive end, are they trying to get calls on the offensive player? Of course they are. Is James Harden trying to get calls on the defensive player? Of course he is. LeBron plays both ends of the floor. He's trying to get calls in both places. And partly it's because, of course, like Shaq in a way, LeBron is often compared, I call him, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson had a baby. He has attributes of Jordan and Magic rolled into one. And he's compared to Jordan and Kobe as these great wing players. But in another way, to me, he belongs in the category with Wilt Chamberlain and Shaquille O'Neal. Unstoppable physical forces, right? And Shaq used to get hacked. And refs at times would look the other way because it's like, well, how they can't even play the game because what else are you going to do to this guy? And so LeBron has some of that going on too. He's so big, he's so fast, he's so great that contact is often made and sometimes he's not getting those calls. So he would like to get them, so he works the refs. Yes, he's a flopper. And by the way, the league is right. Also, you don't want Stephen A. to get into a situation like soccer because already, as we saw from the video, they're just phantom moves where nothing just happened and you're acting like a villain from the old Adam West Batman show, right? Pow, zam, but nothing's landing. The league does not want a situation like that. I know that competitive people are trying to sell calls, but to ask is LeBron a flopper is absurd. Of course he's a flopper. Of course he is.
Well, he is, so I don't have anything to add to that because I know that he is, as is a lot of guys in the league. What I would say to you is that's not where my focus lies when it gets to this subject. My focus lies to the NBA looking for other folks to do the officials' jobs instead of the officials themselves. I remember a few years rather before he passed away. I'm talking about former Commissioner David Stern, Max, God rest his soul. I miss that man. He was crazy, but I miss him. And I tell you this, we were having a conversation and he was complaining in his office. He'd bring me into his office, had a Pepsi Max, and we're sitting there in his office. He give me my Pepsi. He kicks up his feet. He's like, I'm just tired of it. I'm disgusted with it. I mean, all of this acting, these histrionics. I mean, why don't they go to Hollywood for crying out loud? Go to Tinseltown. It's ridiculous. It's not the NBA. I'm sick of it. And I said, yeah, but it's the NBA's officials' jobs to catch them. Sure, if you get in here, you might, something like, for example, if you LeBron James and you 260 pounds and you're a locomotive coming at a whole bunch of people, you know what? A slap on the arm or whatever the case may be may not affect you. So what you got to do is you got to sell it, because it might have had something to do with you hitting the shot. Or if you see guys working and they're manipulating it effectively, what are you going to do? Vlade Divac used to frustrate the hell out of Shaq because Shaq called, that's why Shaq once called them the Sacramento Queens, instead of the Sacramento Kings, because he got tired of Vlade Divac flopping all the damn time. But here's the deal. How the else you going to guard Shaq? When Shaq drop step and swing that elbow at 320 pounds, 7-1, what you gonna do? So it's like you had to try something. What I'm saying is that if you're competing and you're trying to win, it's the official's job to catch you while you flopping. It's not your job to help them by not flopping. I mean, so when we sit up there and we talk about LeBron James, yeah, you 260, and yeah, you could do a lot of different things. But in the same breath, you want to highlight how you're getting slapped and smacked and pushed and all of this other stuff. And just because you're bigger and stronger than most doesn't mean that you should be subjected to it excessively more so than anybody else. So if guys are getting away with flopping, you're returning the favor. Like, hell, I know how to do that too. Right? Catch me if you can. I don't see a problem with it. I really don't.
I'm not first of all, I want to point out, I'm going to argue against it, but I want to point out, that's a great point. This is a debate show, but that's an excellent point. What it reminds me of are credit card companies when they think they detect fraud and they'll freeze a credit card, and now you're responsible for proving, no, it's not fraud. In fact, I'm traveling or something like that. In other words, what they've done is farm out their work to you. You're now working for the credit card company because those purchases would be insured if it was fraud, right?
Yeah. That's a good example.
I get that. I get that. And that's kind of bogus. Hey, you know what? Refs, do your jobs. Stephen A., the refs have a lot on their plate. And these are very competitive people who are looking to milk, to juice every call, right? I mean, it reminds me of even offensive players like James Harden, who the rule is there so that there's not contact. James Harden manipulates the rule to draw contact and then gets the foul and goes to the line. And to me, there should be rules in place against that, right? Because it's not the product you want. The foul calls are there so you get a clean game, not so the offensive player can manipulate it and then work it to their advantage, like a hitter in baseball working the count,
They're all
trying to get
Hall of
on
Famers,
base.
Max. That were exceptional floppers.
No, the Hall
Reggie
of Famers
Miller.
who draw a lot of walks in baseball, and I don't love that rule. The rule in baseball is there to get the pitcher to throw strikes so you can see some action. So I get it. I understand what the league is saying because they don't want a product where rules are being manipulated in order to achieve a result.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here's my response to that. First of all, let's not forget. I mean, Gary Trent Jr., who I like, by the way, I like a lot. I love what he's doing on Portland. One of the all-time flops 2 weeks ago. Literally dove like he was Superman. I mean, unbelievable. It's like, excuse me, technology. I mean, we catch it. We see you're faking it, whatever. But with all the instant replay, with all the going back to the videotape, with all the delays that they force in the game, guess what? You can always institute a rule if we go to the cameras and you know what, you too excessive with this flopping. We can accord you an additional foul. We can do something, or we can take away a timeout. We can do something that make it hurts the team if it's too flagrant. You can do that. Yeah. There are rules that you can implement to dissuade certain things. You can do that.
What wasn't LeBron's too flagrant? Wasn't that a phantom nonsense? You know. Right. Yeah. It gets to a point where the commissioner's got to say, come on, guys. Come on. Let's play ball here.
The theatrics really are just straight up ridiculous. Guys, here's what I think. I think we got All-Star Weekend coming up in just a few weeks. Let's take it a step further. Let's let the guys show off what they've got. Let's have a flopping contest. I don't know. It might be a place to show off their skills.
Not a bad idea.
Max, call your man Nick Khan and tell him to create something for WWE. A couple of those brothers are big enough to be in the squared circle. Let them show up at the WWE and do some stuff. I mean, please, and tell them to consult Ric Flair. They got to consult the Nature Boy.
No doubt, friend of the show.
You got to consult the Nature Boy.
Always got to consult the Nature Boy. All right, guys, we got to leave it there, unfortunately, but I think we can take this a step further if we wanted. All right, we got to know. We want